Today's episode is brought to you by the book Everyone is a Sinner But Me, available now at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Live from Volpis Studios, it's the MCS1 show featuring Caleb Hannah, and now your host, MCS1.
Welcome everyone to another amazing, exciting edition of the MCS1 show. I am joined once again with the original co-host of the MCS1 show, Caleb Hannon. What up, Caleb?
Oh, you know, just living the dream.
Living the dream!
Over here, recording.
Oh, man. Great to have you. Always great to have you.
Aw.
So we have an amazing, special show for all of you today. Today, we're going to be continuing, once again, our little series of
Happy Valley Hate.
And we're going to be talking about a new player of the game, the political game.
Oh, no.
We're going to be talking about Evan McMullin. So, just disclaimer.
The MCS1 show holds no political affiliation unless dictated by its advertisers.
Right.
So,
which, if you're, paying for it, will endorse anyone.
Totally.
Literally anyone.
Anyone, yeah. Pretty much.
I mean...
If you're listening, we could use the money.
I'd go so far as to endorse Fidel Castro as...
Castro, if you are listening.
If you're listening,
If
buddy.
you're listening and you want to, have us endorse you.
We got you, buddy.
We got you for a price. We are not above this.
No, not even a little.
Not even a little. So let's talk about Evan McMullin.
Terrible.
So first of all, let's go into just a little brief overview of Evan McMullin and who he is, basically without diving into details. We'll dive into details more as we go on. So Evan McMullin was this new third-party candidate that popped up about a couple months ago, just out of nowhere.
Literally out
of nowhere. Like one day I was walking around the Provo Trail and Evan McMullin popped out. He's like, I'm running for president. And I was like, who are you? How'd you find me? And what do you need to, how much will you pay me to vote for you? Evan, if you're listening, could you want my either A, vote or to pay me to side with you? We are looking for sponsors.
We have a very large crowd.
Fact check that.
Castro, also if you're listening. In all seriousness, I think it would be funnier to have Castro than Evan.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Way funnier. But
man.
Moving away.
Think about how fast he would die, though, because he's like 89 years old or something at this point.
Yeah, it'd be a good year and a half run.
So basically, you'd be voting for his vice president, who would probably be
Evan McMullin.
Nah, dude, it'd be Che Guevara's ghost.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
The ghost.
The MCS1 show, sponsored by Che Guevara's ghost. So, anyway, Evan McMullin, he just came out of nowhere one day and he's like, I'm running for president.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my Facebook feed is just filled with this guy named Evan McMullin running for president. I'm like, who is this? Because at this point, the primaries are over. The caucuses are over.
Everything's over.
Everything's over.
The only thing that's not over is the election.
They started with this giant battle royale of like 20-some people, and then they whittled it down to maybe, 4, I guess. Yeah. And then all of a sudden this other dude shows up. He's like, hey, guys, I'm running for president. Right when the nominees are already picked. And so this...
Gotta love his feel for timing. He's just... Oh, man.
If
he was a comedian...
Right there, ready for the party.
Yeah, dude. If he was a comedian, all of his jokes would be falling flat because the timing is just so bad.
Here's the other interesting thing. So, Evan McMullin is Mormon.
Right.
Which, I'm Mormon.
Sure.
Pretty much everyone in Happy Valley is Mormon.
I mean, dude comes from Provo.
Guy is from Provo, Utah.
You're 90% correct if you're like, oh, you Mormon?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, you're Mormon. Cool.
Exactly.
Cool. Good work.
And so... the interesting thing in Mormon culture is there's they call, quote, Mormon Standard Time, where you always show up 10 minutes late.
And that's what he did.
And this is what he did. He showed up 10 months late.
Yeah.
So technically, he is living up to the stereotype of showing up to the party, quote, fashionably late.
Yeah, dude, he's a walking Mormon stereotype in that way, let's be sure.
Oh, definitely. So speaking of stereotypes, how I pictured this guy initially running, because there isn't much really known about him, but here's how I pictured him starting his campaign. I imagine him sitting around with his like extended family, like grandma, mom, dad, aunts, uncles, or whatever, and
maybe his brothers.
Yeah, and they're.
I don't know if he has siblings, but they're probably around.
They're there in my scenario.
Sure.
So they're all there and they're hanging out, and they're like, the grandma's like watching CNN or Fox News or
whatever grandma watches,
some whatever political outlet, C-SPAN. So grandma's watching C-SPAN,
BBC,
and she's watching. So grandma's watching BET, and the
BET,
and
this takes me back to my days growing up.
And then she sees Obama on there and on BET, and she remembers that he's president for some reason, and then she
just
said,
hits her really quick.
Just hits her really quick, and then she looks over at Evan. She goes, "Evan, weren't you class president in high school?" And he says, "Well, junior high, Grandma, but pretty good. You should run for president again, Evan. Only this time for America."
America.
And he's like, he just sits there and he nods, and he's like, "You know what, Grandma? That's what I'm gonna do."
And then he ran down that trail, found you, and said, "I'm Evan McMullin. I'm running for president."
Yeah, it just scared the bejesus out of me.
Dude, I bet that would terrify me.
It did, and so so that's how I picture him kicking off his campaign.
Then he just went downstairs and made a shirt and started
rolling with it. Called up some of his alumni buddies, which he went to BYU.
Of course he did.
So he's classic Happy Valley. He even served a mission, an LDS mission for 2 years in Brazil. And so, yeah, interesting. So another thing about Evan is he worked for the CIA for a few years.
Yes, he did.
And other than that, like he joined the House Committee of Foreign Affairs as a senior advisor.
Yep.
And then became a chief policy director of the House Republican Conference. Blah, 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 blah. No one still knows much about this guy.
Yeah, I have yet to know anything really about him other than just the things that he puts on his website, which I'm just like...
And there isn't much information.
Much there anyway.
And I'm not looking for like crazy details.
No,
I'm not interested in if Evan McMullin is really into the band Kansas.
Yeah, I don't care.
Which I think he is.
I would, if I had to take a guess.
If I had to take a guess, I'm pretty sure he's into the band.
He's
Kansas.
dude. "Carry On My Wayward Son" is probably his favorite.
Yeah. And at his funeral, he would like "Dust in the Wind" played.
Absolutely.
And so
because all we are is
dust in the wind.
So,
but there isn't much about him, even like personally, like about his career. And when people walk up to you and talk to you and have a conversation, I'm not like, "Hey, Caleb, what up? Tell me about yourself." Caleb's not like, "Well, I work at this place."
Yeah, I'm not going to start the conversation by saying, "Well, when I was 14, I reffed soccer."
Yeah,
for Springville City.
Well,
so that's about me.
I would start it off with, "Well, I was 8th grade class president in junior high, which inspired me to run for president."
I mean, normally don't you start with something like, "Oh, this is where I'm from."
Yeah.
This is my family. This is what my family's like. Something that actually tells you literally anything about yourself.
Anything.
Is not the jobs. Like, the only thing that the jobs tell you about someone is
what you hate doing.
What did you dislike the most about your life? Oh, man, I had this job?
Yeah, exactly. Like, seriously. There isn't much about Evan. There really isn't. By the way, interesting thing, I'm looking at this on his website. He declared his candidacy for president of the United States on August 8th, 2016.
You mean 3 months before the general election?
3 months. That's like, man, that's
not even enough time to prep for an LDS mission.
Yeah, seriously.
That's not even enough time for that. And he's like, "Oh, I'll just run the country instead. No worries."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
I can run this. That just boggles my mind that, he's like 3 months out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to run for president. So let's talk about Evan as the primary audience.
Oh, man.
Obviously, this is very Happy Valley influence.
Definitely.
So politically, his influences of his following, I should say.
The people that would be,
His following is third-party enthusiast.
Number one.
Mormons,
Number 2.
BYU alumni,
Number 3.
because he was BYU alumni,
Right.
and
So he panders to these people because they fall in the demographic that he's probably
that he is
right.
Really,
right.
I mean, he's
right.
a third party alternative. He's a Mormon, and he went to BYU.
So there it is.
Yeah,
he did it.
And so those are the people in his basically his following. Interesting story about this. My mother lives out in Iowa,
right?
And like me, she's Mormon. And so someone in her
congregation, she is.
I know, right? And someone in her congregation was telling her, like, hey, if you vote for Evan or like write him out on the ballot, you'll get like blessings from God for this. And she's like, what are you doing? Like that type of thing. And this is all the way out in Iowa. So I hate to hear how bad it is right here in the heart of Mormonville, Happy Valley, where things get really imaginative.
Yeah, dude, so one of the things that that I heard, and this is something actually that my wife told me. I haven't heard any of this because people really don't like to talk to me about this because I'm kind of a
political connoisseur,
and I'm a little bit of a confrontational person, and so if you bring something up and you don't have facts, I'm pretty quick to slam you.
Confrontational connoisseur,
a little bit of both.
Political confrontational connoisseur.
But my wife was saying, like, one of the things that she heard was, a vote for Evan is a vote for Jesus.
Oh,
and I was like, that is not okay.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing, with the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Every like election year, every time there's some time big vote come out, they always come out and say we're not endorsing any political candidates.
Yeah.
Logically, vote, study out the candidates online, watch debates, things like that. There's never
and then basically vote for the person who you feel aligns
exactly
the most with your personal values.
And if there was anyone that they were gonna like throw in their lot for, it would have been Mitt.
Oh, absolutely.
But even then, they said the same thing, and they say it every time.
That's smart. That's very smart.
So it's never officially the church saying this. It's always just like random people, random members, just saying all this wacky stuff.
Yeah,
we're gonna get Evan McMullin in, and God's gonna be happy.
Dude, when I heard her tell me that, I was like, who said it, and can I please go slam them? Because that is one of the most ridiculous ways to get a vote.
It really is, and
I mean,
I'm not saying this came directly from Evan's campaign either.
No,
it's just someone crazy associated with it. I'm sure.
Right. And but the thing is that a few of his slogans and a few of the things that he's campaigning based on kind of would lead people to think that that's a logical conclusion to draw.
So here's another thing. Let's since we're kind of segueing towards the people who don't like him or whatever, which sounds like it's us because of how we're shutting this down so quickly.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm not like 100% against this guy, but it's just like, don't use Mormonism as a way to pander votes.
Exactly.
That's bad to me.
So let's talk about the people who are really against Evan McMullin here. The demographics here.
Okay, number one.
So we have number one, we have third party enthusiasts.
Right.
Number two, we have Mormons. And number three, we have BYU alumni. Because here's the point. No one outside of Utah, unless they are Mormon and third party enthusiasts or BYU alumni, really knows about this guy. So the exact same audience that he is drawing in to like him as his following is the exact same audience that is against him.
Yeah, and they're
because everyone else is so busy with Trump and Hillary type stuff that no one bothers with Evan.
No, and I mean even less with Evan than they even do with Gary Johnson or Jill Stein.
Yeah, and
like, so no one because there are people that will talk about Johnson and Stein and obviously there's everybody's talking about Hillary, everybody's talking about Trump and rightfully so. They're the people from the.
It's the election.
It's 2016 people. It's an election year. That's what it is. But I mean, the only place where Evan McMullin has had news time that I've heard of, I think he had a little bit on CNN. I think. I'm not positive on that, but I think it was either CNN or MSNBC, and then Deseret News.
So not C-SPAN.
No.
Or BET.
Definitely not C-SPAN or BET.
Okay. Interesting.
So we might need to call his grandma and just be like, hey, you should probably, contact C-SPAN and BET and see if they could get him some air.
Well, I have them on the speed dial. As we mentioned, like people talking about Hillary, Trump, Facebook trending type crap.
Sure.
I see a lot of So for a while, I was seeing all this positive stuff about Evan McMullin. Then as the election gets closer, I'm seeing a lot more anti-McMullin stuff. And so my favorite things that I've seen or heard of is I heard this one from my housemate mention this next thing. It was someone said, "Wake up, Utah! The world isn't ready for Evan McMullin because he's not ready for it to be president," or something along those lines.
Well, I mean, and he was starting his campaign in August.
Yeah, Wake up, Evan McMullin! You got to be president. And
you got some work to do, buddy.
You got some work to do. And so it was hitting on the fact Evan is not married, doesn't have any kids.
Right.
And so the guy said, well, as a father, I learned a lot of things when I had kids. And Evan hasn't had kids, so I don't think he's qualified to be president.
I love how there's a qualification here.
Yeah, it's like age, check. Kids, nope. Nope.
Can't do it.
You're not moving into this White House. So there was that, and then I saw another Facebook link to a blog written by some weird conservative post thing, and it was along the lines of Evan McMullin said that he was running basically to stop Donald Trump.
Yeah, and then you listen to the audio, and that's not what he says at all.
Yeah, well, do you know the exact quote, Caleb, or paraphrased?
Yeah, paraphrased. Basically, he basically is just saying that a vote for him is a vote that would tie into an actual conservative party, essentially.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot more to it, and it's like, and while that is a slight towards Trump, it's not like he was there saying, so vote for me so that it's definitely not Trump.
Yeah. So
and they very well could have spun it the other way too and been like, oh, well, a vote for him is a vote against Hillary.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can spin it either way.
Instead, they tried to spin it the way a vote for me is a vote for Hillary.
Exactly.
Is how they were saying it.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the GOP has become so sensitive these days.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Let's talk about McMullin's platform.
Oh, this is lovely.
Now, we're not going to go into what he believes.
Because we don't care.
Yeah, that's not what our show's about. You can go check out evanmcmullin.com if you really want to see this stuff. Yeah. You wouldn't be listening to our show to be politically informed.
Yeah, don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
Until Castro starts funding.
I mean, once Castro starts funding,
then go nuts.
Then please listen to us, and because it'll make him pay us more.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about some of Evan's campaign slogans.
Yeah, we kind of alluded to these a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Vote your conscience.
I love that one because a lot of people, especially those that are his followers here, they're using that to tie it into, once again, basically that whole idea of a vote for Evan is a vote for Jesus thing.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing about it, is that it's like, well, if you're voting your conscience, then shouldn't you vote for a candidate that, you actually know something about?
Yeah. And so the main one that he is really, really sticking with is it's never too late to do the right thing.
Yeah, well, August 2016 is kind of late.
Kind of a little late, buddy.
I mean, I guess it's Mormon time or whatever, so he's good.
And then after that, it says, and if we work together, there is nothing we can't achieve. Which, this phrase right here, I could have swore I saw this on one of the hacked DNC Hillary emails
definitely.
For her campaign. She had something very similar to this, I'm sure.
I'm sure that literally every presidential candidate ever is going to say something to that effect.
Exactly.
Because none of them are going to be like, hey, let's work together to destroy everything.
McMullin, he's been doing various town halls all over Utah, Idaho, other surrounding states.
Places with a lot of Mormons and BYU alums.
Exactly. And third-party enthusiasts. God, he knows his target audience.
He does, man. And he is pandering to get their votes.
Oh, he is. And so he's on the ballot in 11 states.
Right. Which means, by the way, he's not on the ballot in 39 states, which is something that should be mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, he's available as a write-in in quite a few of them.
But not all of them.
No, I mean, I think there's 8 or 9 or something like that where he's not even available as a write-in. And it's like, okay.
So let's talk about...
it's because you started in August.
It started in August, buddy. So,
January was the appropriate time to begin something like this.
Possibly.
I mean, even then it's a little late.
But by August, he would have dropped out.
No, it's true.
It's
true.
Saving the fire towards the end.
Maybe that's what he was trying to do. Is maybe, you know what?
Mitigate it.
I think we tapped into his plan. Evan, if you're listening, we got you, buddy.
I
get it.
So, he's obviously on the ballot in Utah.
Right. Duh.
And Utah only has 6 electoral votes.
Wow.
Which means Utah is useless.
Wow.
Because for those of you that know, according to the Electoral College, you need 270 to win.
I never went to the Electoral College. Let's talk about, speaking of winning,
right.
Let's talk about
winning.
How Evan can win.
Right.
How Evan can become president of the United States.
Now, technically, there is a possibility.
Very small chance here. We haven't crunched the numbers yet.
No.
But I'm shaking my magic 8-ball and translating the letters to numbers and hoping we can come up with something.
Right. Because the magic 8-ball is really how you decide polls. But no, basically, so the way that he can win is he wins Utah, and then Hillary and Trump, who are the two major nominees, don't reach 270 electoral votes, which is possible technically.
If America's that split,
right. Because technically, if you take away the 6 of the 538, and I obviously, again, we haven't run the numbers on this. I don't know exactly which states would have to vote which ways to make it happen like that. But essentially, that would mean that neither one of them would end up with 270. Now, the clause on that is that if a presidential candidate does not reach 270 electoral votes, the election goes into the hands of the House and the Senate. And then between those two, they decide and they pick someone from the top 3 candidates according to the popular vote. So, in order for Evan McMullin to win, he has to win the state of Utah and then be the third most popular person voted for, which, because of his status as only being on 11 ballots off of 39 ballots, isn't entirely possible, especially given that in all of the states where he is on the ballot, none of those states have more electoral votes than 12. Even if he won all the 11 states that he was on the ballot for, he wouldn't come close to 270 naturally. There is the possibility that if enough of the registered American voters voted for this man, then he would be one of the top 3. And then because neither the House nor the Senate really like either Trump or Clinton, then that would basically give them the opportunity to put in Evan McMullin. The likelihood of that happening, though, isn't very high. And so
quite slim.
And so to that point, we'll talk about basically the fact of why he won't win. And essentially it comes down to the fact that he doesn't even register on the polls. Like, he's not even there. The only reason we're hearing anything about him is because we live in the state of Utah.
Because we live in Utah.
Exactly.
We live in an area that's very heavily populated by Mormons, BYU alumni, and third-party enthusiasts.
Exactly. And that's the main reason why we're hearing about it here in Happy Valley. Now, again, to that end, it's more likely if he wins Utah that the top 3 candidates at that point, and this is based on a few of the polls that have come out recently, would again be Hillary, Trump, and Gary Johnson. Those would be the 3 then that the House and the Senate would basically have to pick between. So essentially, him winning the state of Utah would do more for Gary Johnson than it would for Evan McMullin. Because this is kind of how the situation is boiling out for this man. He is a 5th wheel on a date that involves only 4 people. He needs to just get off. There really is no possibility, or a very, very substantially small possibility. If I had to guess a percentage, it would probably be 0.0000000, maybe a few more zeros, 1% of a chance that Evan McMullin gets in. Because
so you're telling me there's a chance.
So I'm telling you that there's a Lloyd Christmas chance that he'll get with Mary Swanson. And that's about the same chance that Evan McMullin has of becoming president. Actually, I don't even know if it's that high. Because she said 1 in a million.
Oh.
I don't think he has a 1 in a million chance. Because he would have to get... so I think... So there's 300 million people in America. And there's roughly about 50% of those people are registered to be... registered to vote, okay? Of those 150,000, I think the number... 150 million. I think the number that I heard was that about, what was it? I think it was something like 30 or 40% of those people, something like that, are registered as independents. So he would have to get every single one of those independent votes, essentially, in order to be on the final ballot between the final 3. And that's not going to happen because no one knows who he is.
Yeah.
He's not even a write-in option in 8 or 9 of the states.
Short answer. Should have started a lot sooner than August.
Definitely should have started a lot sooner than August. I think honestly, if he really had foresight and if he really was going to be a viable presidential option, he should have seen 10 months ago that Trump was going to win the GOP, because Ted Cruz didn't have that much support because he wasn't being outrageous enough. Marco Rubio isn't Latin enough, and Rand Paul is way too logical to be winning the GOP. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah. And I think the only person who really predicted Trump from the beginning has been Scott Adams.
Yeah.
The writer of Dilbert.
Yeah. And the big reason why he predicted that, though, is because he actually has a brain that can look at those things. Now,
and he's super intelligent.
Ridiculously. That's
so
why
intelligent.
There's an entire principle based on Dilbert. The Dilbert principle.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, how many people that write Sunday comics can say that?
Exactly. I don't see the Marmaduke guy, having his claim to fame.
Yeah, there's no Marmaduke principle.
I'm kind of sad the guy who wrote the non sequitur doesn't have something like that going on.
Man, I wish he did. That would be legit.
He's good.
But anyway, and again, we're not saying any of this, to say don't vote Evan McMullin.
No. Of course not.
I'm just saying, like, these are the facts. It's not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah.
If he would have started maybe a year ago, maybe he'd have a chance. Maybe.
And we're not saying we're endorsing any particular political candidate.
Except for maybe Fidel if he starts funding.
Except for Fidel if he starts funding. But we will say this, and this will be our closing remark. We will say apologies to Mitt Romney. Mitt,
please come back.
We're sorry. We were a little bitter a few years ago.
Yep.
We wish you would have held out. We're not a political show by any means, but we're sorry, man. We'd like to have you back.
Boy, do we miss you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our show. I would like to thank Caleb for coming on and sharing his insight and wisdom. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the MCS1 show. For bi-weekly episodes on society, counterculture, and pretty much everything but politics and sports, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or SoundCloud. For regular updates, head to the MCS1show.com or search the MCS1 show on any social media platform.